Okay, we're good. All right, let's stand for the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, one liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. How many times have I said the pledge wrong? Okay. It's 8:35 on Monday, the 22nd day of June. This morning, the Commissioners Court is holding a budget workshop on the following departments: Juvenile Department, Sheriff's Department, Coastal Parks, County Library, and District Attorney. This is a very informal meeting. I'd like to certify that all members of the court are present. We started the meeting at 8:33 this morning. And our first presenter is the Juvenile Department. Good morning, Homer. How are you? Welcome.
Good morning, Judge, Commissioners. Thank you. The request you have before you was done a while back, and it was done prior to the state letting us know how they fared in the legislative session. In fact, the numbers just came back last week for the state. As a whole, they obviously have not allocated dollars to specific counties. What we do know from the state is they, in turn, will take a 4.1% cut. And what that means for the counties is that it's going to be a 4.1% cut to our state aid, our basic services. For us in Nueces County, that's going to equate to approximately $85,000. So we just found this out last week. What I would like to do is to go over the original request, because those are items that we did deem at the time to be important and need to be looked at, and then address perhaps how we're going to go forward with regard to entertaining the 4% cut. So on page 1 of the General Fund 11, we have in there a $10,000 request, and the justification for that is on page 3. In short, Commissioners and Judge, that is for electronic monitors. We have seen an increase over the last several years of the utilization of electronic monitoring. Do keep in mind that it is a good option, approximately $3 a day versus the cost of detaining a kid in detention, which is in the excess of $200 a day for Nueces County. It is a very viable cost that the court has utilized over the last several years and continues to utilize, and that amount has gone up, and we're requesting the amount of $10,000. Going down to the Fund 3492, this is in regard to a position in our boot camp. This position, which is a captain's position over the last, as far as I've been there at least, this position is the same, has the same duties as the counterpart in detention. Basically, it's the assistant superintendent of detention. Has been operating that way. However, it's classified as a regular captain. What I would like to do is, in short, is to have that position be paid the same as the assistant superintendent in detention, and in order to do so, it would require a $4,720 increase. The last is a $6,000 request. We were informed this past year by purchasing, whenever there would be an expense as far in our kitchens with regard to any of the equipment, apparently it had been automatically charged to the Robert Barnes building, which doesn't really affect our budget as far as the juvenile probation department. But per the contract that we have with Aramark, it does specifically state in there that we're obligated for those expenses. Purchasing informed us that we needed to change that from $1,460 and change that to $5,260 for us to pay. We estimate $6,000 a year for those expenses. So the total fund request out of General Fund 11 would be $20,720. That was going to be the original and only request that I had up until we got word of the state dollars. We were hopefully riding on the fact that we would stay even with our monies and be able to restore our current level funding. That did not happen.
So Homer, is the $6,000 change, is that, Dale, is that just moving one fund to the other, or is there?
Yes, we should,
Okay, so it's not actually an increase, or is it?
well, we'll come out of,
For his department be an increase, but for general fund, it's just a switch to go from the one department to another.
What was the
Building
department?
Department to juvenile.
To which department?
the building department is under Glenn, so we'll have to take it out of 1490, which is a bit where where it was being funded before. It'll come out of there, and it'll go into Homer's operating budget rather than Glenn's building budget, as it boils down
So it's
to.
not 20 then, it's going to be 14? If the fund's already there?
Well, the funds are currently budgeted in the 1490 building budget for maintenance, repair of equipment and grounds. They're just wanting to move it from, and Glenn Sullivan, you'll see his reduction of $6,000 from his repair and maintenance, and it's just moving the budget from one department to another department.
And why do we need to do that? I missed.
It's an operating cost rather than a building cost. And so we in juvenile, all our facilities, we have a building cost, and then we have the program operating cost, and the contract that we have with Airmart, leaves it with the juvenile department. It's not an upgrade to buildings. It's equipment that for
Kitchen
making food, et cetera,
equipment.
not-
Yes. Yeah.
So it's not attached to the building, and so it's just a correction on that. But I guess the other area, Judge, I know when we faced this before, at one point in time, we said we weren't going to supplement mandates from the.
I want to hear Homer's side of the issue first, and then we'll talk about that.
Yeah, thank you, Stephen. And I am very well aware of our history of the Commissioners Court with regard to supplementing any deficiencies that the state provides us. And we are, headed up against one right now. With the 4%, as mentioned earlier, it equates to about $85,000 in state aid, which, we have budgeted mostly for salaries, and that would involve at least one probation officer position, which we do have vacant right now, be very honest with everybody, and I have that frozen in the event that we may have to get rid of that probation officer position. The other $30,000, we're going to have to look here and there to see what we have to cut if we do. I would like to keep the probation officer position, and that is what I would be requesting of the Commissioners Court. The other, we'll just have to look to see where we can cut, but that would be my recommendation at this time. We are still waiting to see what kind of flexibility the state allows us in regard to funding, as they have not given our allocations yet. We know it's a 4% cut across the biennium, but the second year of the biennium, there's also going to be an infusion of some dollars of what was Whitmire referred to as a regionalization concept, and nobody knows, including the state, on what that looks like and what we're supposed to use monies for, and that will be worked out during the course of the first year of the biennium, to determine how that's going to be allocated for the second year of the biennium. But what we do know is that we're going to have to operate with a 4% cut.
Homer, excuse me, going back on the 10,000 electronic monitors, is there any way they can get a juvenile grant for some of the monitors? And also the fines, I guess, wouldn't they be able to maybe raise the fines and pay for some of the monitors themselves?
The court always has the option of charging, if you will, to the daily rate of the monitor. The collection rate on that, Commissioner, anecdotally, it would definitely fall under 50%, I guess, just to, looking at some of the collection rates of other monies that we look at. One of the priorities when we collect dollars definitely is our restitution to our victims. That we feel needs to come first, and then it goes down from there. So That's always an option that the juvenile board can look at with regard to charging for electronic monitors. It wouldn't be unheard of.
So I'm saying even if we collect half of that, I mean, it'd be a lot less than what we're asking for now, but I'm just at one point, I think at one point, if some of the kids want to be out, parents want them out, then maybe they just got to pay a little bit of money to pay for those monitors. And I don't know how we're collecting on fines and I don't know, fees over there, if you have any fees, whatever, but so the fines out there, you're saying that most of them are not collected, or half of them collected, 50% collected?
Yeah, it's about a 50% collection rate, but we do try to, whenever we collect monies and ask for monies, we do prioritize by looking at the restitution first and then looking at the fees, because we want to be sure to try to get our victims their compensation back.
I mean, I think the monitoring is a good thing. I mean, I support it, but sometimes at one point I think that they need to pay for half of it, or they need to pay for all of it. I think we need to look at that too. So
And that is an option that the juvenile court has.
Homer, couple questions. You said that if you buy more monitors, that potentially can reduce the amount of time that the kids are spending in probation, which would therefore reduce that $200 a day. Is there a way then to go back and calculate with some formula that if these were bought, how much you could save and could show a reduction in the detention budget? Hate to use your argument
Yeah,
against you.
we would. No. I'm just trying to think of. We still have to work in the confines of our staffing ratio. Which is 1-to-8 and different during the nighttime. But so it's not just 1 for 1. If we have 8 kids there, say we have 10 kids there, or 15, you drop it down to 10, you still have to pay for the same number of staff. Even though there's less kids, you have to have the same number of staff on board in order to meet those ratios. I'm sure the math could be done, Commissioner, just have to play with it a bit.
Well, I guess I would ask you to go back and play with it a little bit, because obviously, and I wasn't, Judge Huerta was, and I wasn't the monitor guy. She was the monitor judge, and so every judge is different. I get that, and every judge does it differently, and I don't know what Judge McCoy's doing in that regard. I didn't use him as much as she did, but I think if your argument is that this is going to save us some money down the line, then I would think you need to bring us that and show us some savings in the detention budget. Maybe that would offset your cost. And I get that it's not 1 for 1, but I mean, if you're talking $200 a day to detain them versus a monitor, you don't have to do 1 for 1. You'd only have to come up with enough savings to justify your $10,000 that you're asking for the new monitor. So I would ask you to go back and maybe take a look at that.
Sure.
And then on the probation officer, is that a person that has retired, left? Is that someone that
Well, we have several.
was it unfilled when I was there?
Oh, I'm sure no. But during the course, since you've left, we've had several retirements and several leave for other reasons. It's a vacancy that has been identified, and that at this particular time I'm not entertaining interviewing for. I believe, which one is it? Do you know what particular probation position that was? I believe it's in our diversion unit at this time.
Okay. Well, and I mean, I love you guys, and I think y'all do the best job in the state. But at the same time, I really mean that. I've said that publicly. I said that when I was a judge. I say that now. I think y'all do a phenomenal job. But at the same time, I agree with the judges and the commissioner's court's previous position that to not have to try to offset state mandates. So I'm going to be a pretty hard sell on that 85,000. Just so you know.
And I'm very well aware of
Tough
that,
deal.
Commissioner. I do feel, though, obviously it's my job to look at these numbers and to request accordingly.
I hear you. Thank you.
How many of you filled? I know you had 3 vacancies, and you filled 2 already, so you got one left.
I know we're in the process of, we have 3, we're in the process of perhaps filling 2 of our 3 right now, depending on some of the background checks and how they come out.
Any other questions for Homer? Any other thoughts? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good job.
Thank you, Commissioners.
Thank you very much, guys.
you.
Appreciate you coming and appreciate the job you do every day over there. Thank you. Okay. little early for 9 o'clock, but if the sheriff's department is here and ready to go, we'd certainly entertain it. Are you waiting on a couple of other folks to come?
Yes, I was waiting for Chief Calvino.
Okay, well, that's fine. We're good. As I say, we're 10 minutes before 9, and we're a little early. When they come, we'll go ahead and start. Thanks.
There's 3 attachments, Steve. Which one are they starting with?
3,700, and I'll scroll through the screen as we go through it, but it's 3,700 is the first one.
Okay. Thank you. Good morning, John.
Morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
How are you this morning? First of all, congratulations on your decision to retire. We're going to miss you on the Commissioner's Court, but congratulations on your decision.
Nobody getting ahead of me.
Sheriff Kalen is under the weather this morning, so he asked me to come up here this morning. All I can ask you, gentlemen, is that we need more money than what we've been allocated in the last couple of years, the last few years. We had a meeting with Mr. Waterman last week and Teresa to discuss our shortfall this year. And mainly the shortfall has resulted as a result of, for the most part, us not taking charge of some of the expenses that were generated under the IBF account. And if you'll notice it. Okay.
You had $20,000 request for interpreters.
Cynthia?
It was just this one right here. Where we're asking for money for the translator.
Right. Can Cynthia stand up here with me?
Sure.
Morning.
Good morning, sir.
Morning, everybody. I'm on 3,700. We only requested an increase in one category, and we were asking for $20,000 to be added under 5,300 under special personnel services for KECA 5343, and that's because there's a new ADA law that's requiring us to provide an interpreter. There's somebody that's hard of hearing in the jail for any conversation anybody has with them before they get magistrated, while they're getting booking, anything. We have to call an interpreter for them, and we hadn't had any money allocated for them. We've had to do several budget change orders for that. So under 3,700, that is the only thing we're requesting to be increased.
The next one will be 3,710.
Judge, can I ask a question? No, it's more of the court. If this is an ADA requirement or
Well, this is an operating cost, so of the ADA monies we put aside is for fixing
I know.
things. This has happened, they've had interpreters, but not at this extent. But if somebody comes into booking, they have to have an interpreter, so it's going to be an operating cost, I believe.
it's not anything to do with our settlement, it's just another ADA requirement?
I believe it's probably been there for a requirement for a long time that if somebody is deaf or they should be allowed to have an interpreter. And they've had the contract, but not at this extent. There's an agreement with the deaf and hard of hearing that they're on call 24 hours, is what I'm understanding. And so
Do we anticipate the need
well,
for more of it?
it's compliant. It's essentially what I would say is we're going to start. It's complying with the law to the letter and not doing it. Not wait until somebody requests it. If somebody comes in that's booking, we have to do it. To comply. I think.
But if we've been doing it, so how have they been doing it? Just
Well,
paying
I'm
it
saying
forward out
they
of
haven't been
general
doing it.
fund or something, or they haven't?
They haven't been doing it to the full extent. I would agree. I
Well,
think.
now it's mandated by ADA that we're required to have that in our policy manuals and everything else, so it's an expense that we have implemented.
See if we can allocate some.
Sure, okay, that's,
And if they had the expense before, we would do budget change orders throughout the year to
Right.
move the funds. So.
And then that's how we have been covering it, is just doing a budget change order from another line item.
We talked about during all the budget hearings, we're going to put over to the side and take a look at how we can allocate those costs back to our allocation.
and that's really all I was, looking for, thank you.
And there'll be others, there's really a lot of this in the budget.
to be 3710.
3710, ID.
Okay, on Department 3710, we have asked for a few changes in there. We do have Captain Whitmore here. Would it be okay for him to come? Captain Whitmore, who's in charge of the ID department?
Good morning.
Let's see. On the, excuse me, on the salaries, we're asking for an increase of $39,911 to, make sure I'm looking at the right. We're asking also to involved with that with creating a sergeant's position to assist with the overseeing the daily duties of the Identification Bureau and the associated other responsibilities. And we're also asking to reclassify one of the ID clerk positions to a senior clerk position to recognize a civilian employee who has additional duties that are above and beyond a normal ID clerk.
And can I clarify that? We don't want an extra position for a senior clerk position. We just want to enhance an ID for an ID clerk too, more or less. We don't want to sacrifice or give up a position for ID for a senior clerk position. We just want to reclassify a ID clerk that's already in place. The difference between a senior clerk and an ID clerk, that's all we're asking the difference on.
No, sir, that's on the 5123 for salaries.
39,911?
Yes, sir.
So that's the difference in a,
Well, that's for creating a sergeant's position. We're asking for an additional supervisor's position because currently I am the only supervisor for that section. And to help oversee some of the additional duties that I have, create a sergeant's position and then reclassify one of the ID clerk positions to a senior clerk
so
position.
create a sergeant and reclassify a what?
A ID clerk to a senior clerk. The one we would add would be the sergeant's position, yes, sir. On the 5125 for salaries for overtime, we're asking for an increase in $10,000. We've had people out sick. We cover, it's a 24-hour operation in order to cover vacations and stuff like that, just to ensure that we don't go over budget. We just want to increase it by that much.
Your comment, Cynthia, of one position is working at Central Records, is that in 3700 then? Is this position in the wrong department?
There is one position in the Central Records Department that is paid out of 3710 because it's been in place there, it's been needed there, and they work out of that department because of all the information that is held there.
It's doing ID record stuff, or?
No.
Well, I mean, my point would be is that if it's a 3700 position, then it should be put into 3700. But the creating of additional position for that purpose is, just the utilization of resources, but I think it should be funded out of the proper department.
Well, so we need to look into some information like the chief and the captain was saying about overtime. I happen to have the numbers for actual 13-14 overtime was $68,000. I'm projecting about 45 to 48,000, and they only have a budget of 10. So they're well over budget now.
Well, let me comment on that too. We have this same thing with the 3700 where because of the high turnover, there is some overtime, but we budgeted the full-time positions at full salary, and so we've transferred the money from full salary. We don't add funding to the department. We just transfer if they have a high turnover rate, high usage of overtime because of not having a permanent positions. Then we use permanent position monies to cover those. So
Right.
I would not recommend, I haven't in the past recommended that we budget overtime at what they're actually using. If we're going to do that, then we need to not budget their permanent positions full-time, because it ends up with.
That's right.
I thought I remembered that's how they were covered.
Right.
Yes, sir, and it's bigger, it's a bigger problem in the jail. You understand what the Commissioner?
What you're saying is don't budget overtime, but budget more full-time positions and
Well,
move the money around?
We have always, we've always budgeted 100% of our positions rather than, so we budget our positions 100%.
Whether they're filled or not?
Yes.
Yes.
For budgeting purpose, we assume there. So yes, during the year, and we don't do this to many departments, but we do it at the ones where, basically the juvenile and the jail are the only ones we do that will take full-time salary and use it for these purposes, because they're mandated to have some coverage in there, so they have to fill them. So we will cover the additional overtime or temporary, whatever they have, how they're covering their labor costs to stay with standards. But we will transfer money from the salary regular to overtime so it doesn't come up with a total budget shortfall, and we don't bring it from, and we don't take it from any of our contingency funds.
So I think I understand. So basically, to stay on budget overall,
Yes,
you're
yes.
fudging a little bit with the numbers, but I mean, couldn't you just go ahead and budget those departments that you know are going to have overtime? I'd rather have an overtime budget than a position budget, because I'm the guy that doesn't like a lot of extra positions out there. But and it seems like a more honest, I'm not trying.
Well,
It's a more fair budgeting way of doing it. If you say, look, we're going to have overtime. It's just the way these departments operate, and let's put it in there and take it away from the position that we're budgeting. If I'm understanding you right.
And we have to have the position. So when you say we have to have the position, if he's ever going, we have to have a position in place so he can recruit for it. So there's always has to be a position. So he's recruiting for the vacant positions. It's not a matter of say, well, okay, we'll lob off a bunch of positions because he doesn't need them anyway, but he can't put him behind the power curve more in personnel.
I think
Fighting the turnover rate.
Right, so the turnover rate is the issue. Now, where the money sits, the position has to be there, whether the money sits in overtime or in full-time positions, that's debatable.
And I get it. I mean, I think as long as a department comes in on budget, there's going to be things during the year that you need to tweak and move around. I mean, I get that. I mean, and that's fair. I'm just trying to make sure we're doing this to where if they're going over on their overtime budget and they've got this position that gets filled, then what do we do? Then they're going to come in over budget on the department as a whole, which is problematic for us and for them.
And if you look back just historically, this has always been the case just because of the nature of what we do, the turnover rate is, and we have to have bodies there, for the
Right.
prisoners.
Yeah.
But we have never gone over budget
Right.
overall.
No, and I've known that.
Historically, we have always come in with budget,
Right, okay.
regardless of everything going on up here. The bottom line, we've always stayed.
I kind of agree with Commissioner Chesney here about the position. I think what we're saying, as long as there's a vacant position, you're using that money, and we fill it, then you don't have that extra money. So, I mean, maybe sometimes we'll go longer not filling it because we got to use that money. So, I think if we have the positions there and say allocate 10,000 for overtime, use it overtime first, and you're going to have that overtime. I think that's what you're saying.
In defense of Captain Whitmore here and the 3720 budget, the reason that we're asking for this is because when we get above the budgeted overtime limits, we get notices from auditing saying that you don't have funds to pay overtime anymore, and that's constantly every month or every other week that we get.
I kind of hate to do.
You know that auditing's doing their job.
I hate for you to depend on
That's why we're doing
vacancies to get your overtime. I mean, that's really what you're saying. And
We've done that historically forever.
well, maybe it's time to change.
And I
Then
think that-
then we have to reduce the number of positions.
Well, maybe not.
They don't want to do that. They don't want to reduce the number of positions because then you don't have enough
Maybe they can't,
positions
maybe they
to
can't.
meet the standards.
So I understand, Judge, but I mean, maybe it's up to us to find another position somewhere. I mean,
Yeah, I get where you're going, and I'm okay with it now that you've explained it. I just want to make sure that we're, at the end of the day, if you're staying, which you are, and I look back, I mean, you guys have done a great job always of staying on budget. Really, the whole county, to be honest with you, and I want to say that going out, really, most of the departments in the county have done a great job, and this Commissioners Court in the past has done a phenomenal job of budgeting, quite frankly, because every year I think we're coming in at about 95% of budget, so it's really pretty darn impressive, and I'm saying that to compliment these four because I had nothing to do with it. So great job by everybody. So I understand what you're saying. So I'm good.
Yeah, I'll throw one last comment on the whole thing. You know, that there's all these positions, whether we pay overtime or not, you know, the other factor in this thing is the number of positions we have there. We understand that when we're paying overtime, it's a time and a half rate. And so they don't supplement 100% of all the vacant positions. You know?
Well, plus if we fill the positions, we don't have to have overtime.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
And that's the problem we always have is we have unfilled positions that we can't recruit for. I get that. And so that's part of the problem is we've got these positions that we can't fill because of the turnover and so forth. And so that's why there's overtime. If all the positions were filled, would we even have the need for overtime? I mean,
Not theoretically, you would not.
yeah. So now let me go back though. I do have to ask the question because I'm going to ask it of every department. So don't take offense. But when you say create a new position, that kind of makes me sit up a little bit. So can you tell me a little bit more about why you're doing that? And you touched on it. And
Currently, I oversee identification, but I also have additional responsibilities overseeing the court coordinators, oversee booking processes, and legal processes, and my other major job is testifying in court on fingerprints. So I am out of the office quite a bit. And a lot of the day-to-day stuff that needs to have a little more direct supervision, I'm not there to help supervise. And it kind of creates a lag time on getting some things done. With a sergeant's position, it would help cover some of those day-to-day operations and overseeing the court coordinators, booking and releasing and making sure those things are handled correctly, and to ensure that, you know, if I take a vacation or anything else, there's somebody there that can answer questions.
and what is your rank? I apologize.
Captain.
Captain. So, Captain, could you not promote someone that's currently there to do the job? And I get that leaves another unfilled position, but to reclassify is cheaper than creating because you would be bumping someone rather than creating. I'm just asking the questions. I know you've looked at this, so.
If we were to reclassify a position to a supervisor's position, it'd be a civilian position. 'Cause I currently have 2 officers that work for me. The rest of them are all civilian positions.
2 positions, 2,
2 correctional officer positions that work for me.
This is ID section.
okay, 2, so what are those?
They work in the court coordinator sections.
No, I mean, you said 2
Correctional officers,
officers, what are their ranks?
correctional officer.
Correctional officer, and they can't be sergeants? I don't know how it works, I apologize for asking silly questions, but I'm just checking.
Well, I'm sure it could be
Yeah.
changed, but
Well, again, there's something evading me here on this is that the 3710 budget, we have one position, that's a captain position. We don't have any correction officers in 3710. Now, how the sheriff is displaying his employees, we don't have control over that. But the court has one position there, and last year we raised, at the request of sheriff, we increased the position from a lieutenant to a captain, which is a substantial increase in salary. Now, what that did as far as the duties, I don't know, but again, the court have provided for, you know, there's been one person there forever. Now, if he takes some of his correction officers and lets them, does work for the ID section, either we transfer him in there, but then he shorted, you know, I'm not understanding what the operation that's going on there, but I don't, the way I see it, just from what's in our budget is the captain has 15 ID clerks positions to supervise, and that's what we have for personnel stuff there.
I understand that's what the budget is, sir.
Yep.
And
That's what we're dealing with.
I understand.
Maybe you need a civilian supervisor.
Say again?
Maybe you need a civilian supervisor. You got that many civilians.
Well, the ID clerks are pretty low grade, and there's a turnover. I'm not, your operation, I'm not saying what your
I
operation is. I'm
understand.
just saying is, when we talk about budget, if we're justifying another position because we got to supervise 2 correction officers or vice versa, they're not there, and
We understand the dilemma on that part, and I agree with what Steve is saying, that creating a new sergeant position, we'll have to create a new position, and we're going over $34,000. However, his other request is to enhance one of his ID clerk to an ID clerk 2, which would be a senior clerk 2, to help him oversee his operations there at the ID section. This position would be I assume for a lady that's been there for a long time.
Okay.
She testifies in court also, does the ID print, identification in lieu of Captain Whitmore. And she also serves as the FTO or the CTO, the training officer for the incoming ID clerks that come in. So if we could just ask the court to enhance, not create another position, senior clerk 2, but enhance an ID clerk 2 position, the difference between an ID clerk now and a 2 level, I think that would help Captain Whitmore a lot.
Steve, let me ask you a question on this too. And without getting into any kind of substance of the negotiation, Steve, where do we, let's assume for just the sake of this conversation that the current labor negotiations that are going on with the Sheriff's Officer Association, how does that get plugged in if there's raises there? How do we, does that get supplemented into these budgets?
the filling the positions, creating positions or deleting positions is not part of the labor.
No, I'm saying the dollar amount that
The
goes
dollar
up.
amount, the dollar amount will ultimately, yes, these positions that will be created will be at a certain level. In this case, it's a sergeant position, and so whatever the sergeant position gets paid in the new contract, that's what this would be at.
So this budget, assuming, and I'm not trying to get into negotiations, but let's assume there's some raise,
Yeah.
then this budget's going to automatically go up.
Well, the salary budget, in fact, we don't we don't ask the departments to even give a salary when they do the budget, don't fill the salaries in because they don't know what's going to end up anyway, so.
Okay.
But for new positions, the only thing you have to go on right now when they do their budgets is what the current salary is.
And I'm not asking about new positions. I'm saying this budget, the sheriff's budget,
Oh, yes,
will go up
yes.
by some amount depending on what happens.
Yes.
And so this isn't the final number for
Oh,
that.
no.
So these
Correct.
numbers,
Oh, no.
these are just what we're doing basically today is, looking at
At their increase expectation. Okay, all right, thank you.
And at a later time, Steve and I, and with the judge, when we go through the positions that are either authorized or are reclassified, or with the sheriff's new agreement possibly, that's the time I'll go in with Steve and we'll do the adjustments, and then we'll let you know where those adjustments are.
This is the wishing time of the budget.
Yes, sir. In addition to the regular duties that they do for the sheriff's office, we also do a lot of work for LCS. His department does a lot of work for LCS, and that's another reason that we're asking for that. Enhance our positions.
All right? Thank you, Captain Whitmore. Is that it?
you had a couple small
Supplies.
office supplies.
Yes, sir. On 5210, office expense and supplies, just asking for an increase in $3,000. As everybody knows, supplies have increased, and we currently go through quite a bit of ink cartridges and paper and stuff like that, running criminal histories and things like that. And we just
Okay.
want to make sure we stay within budget on that. And on the non-capital
The
outlay,
non-capital outlay, we'll just put, right now, we're taking that out of the department, so it'll be in 1,900. So.
okay.
So I think we can go to
Yep.
anything more on
I'll
37.
mention one thing, Your Honor, if I could.
Yeah,
real quickly.
please.
Under their 5680 we've got a $2,000 amount in here for office equipment, and I understand that, you have printers and things but I do notice that you mentioned fax machines. One of the things, Steve, that I'm going to push pretty hard on this year in our budget is it's time for all departments to start phasing out fax machines. That's 1980s technology, and you can do that now electronically, and we can get rid of paper and the fax machines, plus we pay for an analog phone line for every one of those fax machines. So if you go, and we've had to deal with that in our rewiring situation here. We have literally hundreds of these analog fax lines that we're paying for in this county, and it's just absolutely silly that we're still doing that. So I'm going to push pretty hard on that this year.
Good.
Thank you.
Very good, thank you. Okay, thanks. All right.
Hey, Mike, can you fax me that request? Just kidding.
He'd send you an email. What else you got, Cindy?
We have one more. We have the 3720 budget, which is the jail budget.
Okay,
And we do have quite a bit of increases on there. We have Captain Carrion here who's going to help us go through some of these.
okay. Good morning.
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 We are under 5123, under reclassification. We have a senior clerk that is currently doing a lot of the accounts payable for the jail section, and she has been doing this for quite a while now. She is a 25-year plus employee, and we're just asking if her salary could be increased from a senior clerk 13.3 or /3 to a 15.4. She is also the one who is taking over whenever our secretary for the department is not there. She assumes her duties as well, or any time that she's not there for whatever reason. And that would be a dollar amount increase of $3,141.
Okay.
And under the 5125, that increase, we are asking for 90,000 increase. This is for necessary to cover vacant jailers' positions with overtime personnel. As you know, we are mandated by the Texas Commission on Law Enforcement to staff a certain number of positions, and we also have jail schools, maybe 2 to 3 jail schools, sometimes 4 jail schools a year. And while they're in school, of course, we have to keep the same number of positions within the jail, so we have to staff that with overtime, or anytime that there's unexpected security emergencies that require additional personnel in both facilities, here at the main jail and also at the McKenzie Jail Annex. Then under the 5138, we are allocated 25 CTO positions, and that supplemental pay is $100 per month for each one of those 25. And we are currently trying to fill all those positions, and if we do, that would be a shortfall of $2,402, so we're asking for that increase.
That will be adjusted automatically when we have new contract.
Yes. Yep.
Then under the 5210, the supplies that are used in everyday inmate housing unit at both jail facilities. These are chemicals that are used to disinfect, keep the jails clean and germ-free as much as possible. And we have been doing quite a good job at doing that. We haven't had any major MRSA or flu outbreaks or anything like that, so we're asking that we are able to continue using the same chemicals that we have been using that have been quite effective. And the dollar amount would have to increase to approximately $24,800 to continue with the amount that we are currently using in both jail facilities. Under the 5220, these costs are expected to increase as the inmate population increases. During the hurricane season, also becomes necessary to order additional items in preparation of possible storms affecting our area. Also, some of the things that we have to order sometimes have an expiration date or shelf life that at some point are not able to be used. So we can't store it and say, well, we'll leave it for next time. Under the 52,
That's pretty much, isn't that pretty much just our Fairmont contract?
Yes, and that, there will be an increase when it goes to Commissioner's Court. Just a little bit.
Basically, what we budget there is contracts for Fairmont.
Yes, that's the other one.
Because I think the hurricane supplies could no, I know.
Under the 5260, that dollar amount increase is just more in line with the actual costs that are being incurred. So we're asking for that dollar amount increase. And I think this was touched on the 3700 budget, but under the 5330, the dollar amount increase of 7,320. $610 were billed for 1 month services. So if we just try to calculate or estimate for the whole year, under the new ADA law requires us to provide interpreters for deaf mutes. I was touched on the 3700, but this is on the 3720. Under 5410, these are the added expenses of the extradition teams and all associated expenses, which include the meals and hotels when they have to stay overnight, either transporting inmates to other facilities or bringing back inmates from other facilities as they go through their routes.
Dale, is that line going over budget, or do you know?
For 5410?
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
Yeah,
Right now,
yeah.
last year it was about 180. This year, we're estimated about a 125. And their budget's 70.
Judge, as John said, Teresa and I met with the sheriff last week, and 5410, a big part of 5410 being shortfall this year is prior years, we were using some monies from the inmate benefit fund that potentially shouldn't have been doing, so that all those costs got moved back into the general fund and for this year. And at the time, we hadn't planned for that when we did the budget as one consequence.
Are you all still using your own people to do that? You're not going outside and getting a third party, are you?
In extreme cases, if there's something that would interfere with something that we've already have scheduled,
Right.
and that inmate has to be here either to testify or for whatever purposes in court, that is the only time that we go. And then,
No, but for the
Chief.
most part, Judge, to answer your question, we're still doing our own transport and extradition units. Since that first 2 years that we were here, as you remember, if those that weren't here, we were spending over $460,000 a year.
Yeah, the reason I asked that question, John, is the sheriff made a really big deal at one point in time about not using third party and going in-house, and we saved a lot of money doing that. And I just want to make sure you're still,
$460,000.
yeah, you're still using in-house people to do that.
And we're averaging, what, about $150,000?
Year to date, they've only spent $13,000 for that function.
Okay,
So
that was my point.
this line item would lead you to believe that that's what this is all for, but it's actually a huge,
Yeah,
it's got
there are
a lot of
about 8 or 9.
general operating supplies, so it's,
That's why uniforms-
transport of prisoners is just a small part of this line item.
Okay, all right, that's fine.
Just to note, it's kind of deceiving the way it looks. It's an all-encompassing
Okay,
code. All the inmate uniforms, anything that they need falls under this. The employee uniforms falls under this category. So it doesn't look like there's much going on there, but there's about at least 9 or 10. I think Dale said 8.
At least 9 or 10 Kikos that go in,
Because
or
they go
more.
into it,
Okay.
And it's all the inmates' supplies, shoes.
Well, I'm okay with that, Cynthia. I just know that the jail operation using your own people saved a lot of money. And I was concerned that you might be going back to third party again, and that's not what you're doing. So that's good. That's
Judge,
good.
Historically, as Dale said, we budgeted $70,000. Historically, that was a reasonable number, but last year when we finally did the true-up,
Yeah.
the extra $100,000 was put in last year's budget,
Okay.
expenditures, not budget, and that's driving this year's, we're going to be bringing the budget change order, not this court, but the next one, this major,
Yes, a very large.
Very large one.
yes,
Well, for the
sir.
sheriff's office, there's going to be several codes that need to be adjusted, yes.
Okay.
And what happens with, under that category, when we run out of money like we did this year, we can't pay our bills, or the county can't pay their bills, because we don't have any more money to transfer from one budget code to the next, which we have been doing until we decided to stop it, because that was hurting our 3700 budget, because we were taking money from there to put on 3720. And under this category, we've got so many invoices coming in that we get notices that you don't have enough money in your budget code item to pay for these expenses, so find money someplace else, and that's what we've been doing all this time,
Yeah, I know you have.
until we,
And I know you have. Yeah.
until we can't do it anymore. That's why we had this meeting with Steve
Yeah,
last week.
Lisa and I, and working with Steve, and we've made sure the sheriffs can meet their responsibilities, and we'll bring us a change order on the next quarter.
Okay. Yep. Go ahead, please. Thank you.
The other one was the under 5510. Those are the projected costs. They just haven't kept up with the actual cost, and this is all print shop expenses that are necessary for legally conducting jail business. There's all documents, bonds, and things of that nature, including the yellow cards that the the courts issue, are all paid out of this. So we have a shortfall on that.
And there might need to be a slight adjustment to that number as my staff and I work through the new copier contract lease we have. Some rates have gone up, some rates have gone down. So we'll make sure we work with the sheriff's office on additional costs other than the copy equipment to see, so this $25.90 may be less and may be more. So, but we'll bring that number to you.
I guess if you look at the screen in front of you that I have there, you see that the total of these requests is $327,000 increase for the jail division. That's without any salary adjustments or any law enforcement stuff, right?
Okay. Anything else? John? Captain?
I have a question.
Cynthia?
Is that all-
Questions?
All for the sheriff? Okay, I have a question. And Steve, if we proceed with the remodel out at the McKenzie Annex to house additional prisoners, whether it's federal or whatever, I would assume that's going to require an increase in personnel for the sheriff's department.
Talking to the sheriff when we was over there, we don't perceive that that's going to open up in this fiscal year.
Okay.
If it does, it'll be in a lot, but we're not, it will, ultimately, we'll have to add additional positions, depending upon how we phase it in there. The numbers, when we opened the 48-bed pod, we had 5 new positions. I'm not sure at this and here what it'll be, but we're not budgeting at this point for those positions for next year's budget.
Okay. So those won't be plugged into the 2015, 2016?
That's correct.
Should not.
Yeah, because we're at a state now, we haven't even brought plans.
Don't even have the plans yet?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, good. I just wanted to ask that question. Thank you.
Okay. Anyone have any other questions for the sheriff's department?
No, I just, one last comment, just want to add that, everybody's aware that the city's growing, the county's growing in population, and with that, in retrospect, the city grows, county grows, the same number in ratio grows in the jail, so just like we have more people in jail, so our costs are constantly going up, so that's something to keep in mind when you guys are doing your numbers.
Yeah, we know.
And Judge, one comment I'd make just for the court's overall awareness, as you know, our contract with the old LCS, the new group there, I mean, the number of inmates being held is way down, as you're aware, and the revenue for this year is going to be down, and the projection, I'm not sure what next year is going to be there, but we've had some loss of revenue in that area there this year and probably moving forward next year.
Yeah, and we don't have as many federal prisoners in the jail on a regular basis either, and that's, I keep pinging you guys about that, but we need to have 20 over there, and there are a lot of days where we have 15.
Try to maintain that average, but the
I know.
marshals control that.
I understand.
And we have called, we were engaged in conversation last week on that topic, and they just said that we'll get them to you as we can.
But it does raise kind of antennas.
Yeah, it creates a budget issue because we budget for an average of 20. And with if and when we do the expansion of the McKenzie, that frees up more space in the Bang jail for more federal prisoners, and we're constantly in discussion with the sheriff about, if we can't maintain 20, then how are we going to maintain 40 or whatever it is? And so we need to really be constantly aware of our relationship with the marshals.
Well, we understand that, and the issue that we had last week is because the reason they were trying to tag us with some serious medical issues with individuals, and we spoke out against it.
Good.
And that's one of the reasons that we went down to 15, but we requested them to send us 5 more, keep it up at 20. But when they started issuing and tagging us with severely medical needs people, that's when Captain Carrion and his staff got involved and said, wait a minute, we can't be doing this. This is going to tie up our resources.
I'm glad you did that, because we shouldn't be adversely selected against by the federal marshals on.
But Captain Carrion and his staff, they keep a daily lookout for that thing, and they picked up on this pretty quick. And
good. Well,
Judge, one other item on the jail, which Mike wanted to give a presentation, and he didn't get it in there, but I told him to get it in jail, and that's the phones. Mike, this is a capital item. If you didn't.
Okay, thanks, Cindy. Thanks, John.
Yes, sir.
Tell him if he's going to get sick, he doesn't get sick on budget days.
That's the way I spent my weekend,
Yeah.
Judge.
Yeah.
Still trying to recover from all that. But I let Steve know the other day that, there's a sizable amount of money that might need to be spent in terms of replacing the phone system in the jail. It is very, very, very old, as we know the one in here is, and we're in the process now of starting that process of installing servers and getting the network completed and that type of thing. We spent $1.2 million doing the network upgrades in the courthouse and the jail, and with the exception of a couple pods over there, we're finished with the wiring. That upgrade to the network will allow us now to use the internet phone type systems, or IP phones as we fondly refer to them. And so the jail has quite an interesting hodgepodge over there. They are tied into the server phone system in the courthouse, and then they also have 2 of their own phone systems over there. So when you go over there and you take a look at I hate to call it a mess, but it is really amazing that it works at all. And the sheriff has expressed concern over the years of call routing and having to have additional staff and that type of thing, trying to take care of calls from the outside to get people to the right areas. And so the new system will provide a lot of ability to provide call referrals and that type of thing. And even in the proposal that is being brought forward here shortly, as soon as they get all the pricing completed, will be some of the old stuff that we have in there. For example, some of the push-to-talks in the cells. We're going to have to convert that through a little bit different system because of the distance those wires go. So there's still a number of things that the difficulty in wiring a pod, changing out the type of equipment in there and that type of thing is a very expensive process. And so the vendor has recommended we continue to use the same wire, but they're going to put a different piece of equipment on the end of it, which will tie it into the IP phone system and do the call routing within the jail as needed. So all in all, it looks like right now, not to shock anybody, but the price is going to be about $680,000 is the estimate, and that's a little bit less than what we're going to spend on this building to put the phone system in. But there's also a lot of support costs in our part of that. So I think the sheriff is very much on target if he can reduce workloads at the desk and that kind of thing. And as Commissioner Pusley had mentioned a little bit ago, the ability to go to different type of fax machines and that type of thing can save some effort too. So other than that, I think it's a lot of money to put in the budget, but it's something that should be considered and taken a look at. That's all I really have to say about it.
Okay, thank you.
All right, sir.
When does the inmate phone system contract come up?
It should be on this agenda coming forward. It should be on the agenda Wednesday.
Yeah.
We've been out for requests for proposals, and we've got them back and evaluated and have a recommendation for the court on Wednesday. Say again?
With that and this system?
Well, there's
Two different.
there might be some increase in there, but the overall what we're getting already, that money has been into our general fund budgets. The only thing that could potentially be there would be any new money that we would have from that system. But anything in revenue that we're currently getting already, we'd be just diverting it from here to there and shortfall in one for the other. So, we're talking about for these new items, new revenue or new things.
Yeah. Thank you, guys. Appreciate it, ladies. Thank you very much.
I have one question, Chief.
Okay.
How hard are we recruiting? For jobs? I kept hearing vacancies. Are we recruiting real hard for jobs? I mean, where are we going out to recruit?
Yes, sir, we attend almost every job fair that the county and the caller, the city, the TV stations have. We pay that out of our community fund, so it doesn't cost the county anything for us to attend those work fairs, those fair shops. But we're doing the best we can. We even paid $25,000 for a news television commercial that we had back in December, November. And it's just, the excuses we get is that's not the type of work that I had in mind, and they leave. We had a gentleman that signed up the day before, showed up for work, and by 12 o'clock he was gone. That's not what he expected. So, I mean, we're doing the best we
going
can.
like to Delmore and A&M and setting
All those
setting up
places. All those places. Like I said, we have a recruiter that attends almost every job fair that comes available, and we do the best we can.
If I might add, when I started in February, March, working on data for the contract negotiations, there were about 40 vacancies in the jail. Today, as of May 8th, there were 21. So they've made some dent.
21, you said?
On the May payroll summary, there were 21. I'm not sure what exactly it is today. So,
As of today, we have 23 vacancies in our jail.
so it's that they've made some dent in that.
Very good. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, guys, ladies.
Thank you.
Thank you for coming over. Well, we're right on time. Mr. Cross is right on time. Good morning. Howdy. If you spill that coffee on my carpet.
This is a Yeti cup, sir. It doesn't spill.
We'll start with 180.
My good daughter.
Yeah, right. Okay.
What I was going to say is Scott has several, but we'll start with 180. He'll have 180, 181, and 182. So
Good. Good morning, Scott.
Good morning, Judge.
How are you?
I'm good.
Good. You're up.
Okay, well,
Thank you.
yes, sir. If you look at 180, I really didn't make much of a significant change there at all. All I did was zero out the line item 5180, which is other personnel expenses, which is where we would pull from the contracted employment agency that the county bids out if we needed a select specific service. We really don't use that. So I elected to zero that out and increase professional services by 10. So using that cost savings, move down into line item 5330. What it equates to is a $2,351 impact that I'm asking for next year. And that's all I'm asking. I didn't ask anything out of...
That's 2,000, it looks like 2,300,000.
Well, no, I meant the total, yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah.
it looks like a $3,000 change.
Yeah, about $3,000 change is all I'm asking for. And 181, nothing, keep it the same. 182, really nothing, keeping it pretty much the same with the exception of on maintenance, repair, buildings and grounds. If you're familiar with 182, this is a beautiful account because when we started this pier operation, I worked real close with the auditors and Steve, and I can tell you that 182 in our pier operation completely self-supports itself. It doesn't, anything that we invested in startup, it completely generates its own budget, and we don't require anything from the general fund on that. And so all I did was increase that amount right there to have something for buildings, repairs, and grounds. In other words, that little guard shack that we work out of or anything, if I've got something that needs to be paid for on the pier, I want it to be caught right there because this department is performing exceptionally. I think Dell would attest to that. And what we do, we don't carry a fund balance in this department. At the end of every fiscal year, we take that fund balance and roll it back into 180. So we capture those revenues. So it's, there again, really proud of this venture. It's completely self-supportive. It doesn't cost the taxpayer a thing. Pretty simple.
Scott, this is great budget. I appreciate this. How much increase, I think it's important to note, do you anticipate an increase in the revenues coming out of our parks next year?
Next fiscal year, I'm anticipating for Padre Bay, because with phase one of Padre Bay getting complete in the next fiscal year, or getting complete as we end this fiscal year, going into the next fiscal year, bringing those facilities online, we're going to double the capacity of the park. And so right now I'm anticipating an additional $146,000 in revenue from just Padre Bay alone, which puts it up to $290,294 as far as annual revenue. That's what I'm projecting. And I think it's safe for y'all to hedge your bets on my revenue projections because we've always met them or exceeded them in 6 years I've been here, so we're doing real well. Our occupancy rates are still, we're full. I think the only weekend I have available at IB McGee right now and Padre Bay is the first weekend in August is the only time you can get a spot, get any space out there. We're completely booked up.
And then is that projecting no revenues for the IB McGee because we're not shovel ready on that one?
Yeah, IB McGee, I'm keeping it flat, same as last year.
That's a good conservative way to do that.
However, on those revenue projections, I did it very conservatively because, we're required when we set our fair market rate, in compliance with, the state laws and regulations, we cannot charge a fee that's at an unfair advantage and compete with private entities in the marketplace, so we have to charge a fair market value. Those revenue projections are based off the value of the fair market value, what our current sites are like. So they're usually $25 a night or $150 per week. At Padre Bay, you remember, because of deed restrictions, I can't not do month to month like I can in IB McGee. So once I bring these facilities online and I've got 50, 30, 20 amp and direct sewer hookups and new pads and new amenities, I will need to go before the board and suggest a fee rate increase. And so what those, a traditional site of that caliber out in the marketplace around in our area would be $45, $48 a night. You know, we may not want to make that kind of a leap, but we've got to make sure that we charge a fair market value, you know.
So your revenue projections are based on the current revenue rate, the current rate structure, which is, again, a very good conservative approach. So when those rates go up, which they will, your revenue projections will also go up?
Yes, sir.
At that point? Okay, great.
Yeah.
So basically, you're asking for $2,000 or $3,000 more, but we're looking at a lot of enhanced revenue in regards to that.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And the only other thing, I do look at my budget, and I've communicated with Steve and Dale. It's not reflected in here, just for y'all to know. You know, as we double our facilities, we double our demand on upkeep and stuff like that. And so I've been talking with Annette down in Public Works about, you know, trying to supplement some of my janitorial services with some of the contracts that y'all already have in place. Anywhere I can piggyback on a contract that the county already has and try to get some of that, because the biggest thing is, you know, when people come to us, they want to stay and they want to spend money with us, they want to know our facilities are clean and in order, and especially clean and safe. And so I'm looking at ways to supplement things like that. That way, you know, it keeps away from FTEs or seasonal, or actually temporary, sorry, Judge, temporary employees, you know, because we are real seasonal, but, you know, depending on those, we use that where we can. So, anyhow, just to let you know, those are the things I'm doing in the background to try to cut expenses and increase revenue, because I know growing our fund balance is critical to us. And we're in a really neat position right now to be able to do what we're doing at Padre Bay, and then transition to doing the same thing in 16-17 at IB McGee, which will be the fiscal year after this one coming up. So over the next 3 years, we look at being able to double the capacity of both parks, adding additional 75 at IB McGee and doubling Padre Bay just on what we have available to us right now. And that's gonna be huge, you know.
So, Scott, right now, y'all are gonna, just for my edification.
Yes, sir.
You've got money programmed to go in and do an expansion of Padre Bay.
Yes, sir.
For your overnight camper. So you're just gonna do that one this year, and next year you're gonna do
Yes, sir.
Albuquerque McGee.
Yes, sir, because the board would like for me to get it all going at once. And I got to kind of pull the reins back on them, believe it or not. They're usually putting the reins back on me. But we've got a lot of, we've got PJs going right now. We've got Packery Channel Nature Park. We've got all kinds of grant issues that I'm dealing with for the new property. And we've just got a lot going on. And so in order for us to, things not done, still have a department to run. So I would prefer we do this one.
You're only working half a day, right?
So, we got some good staff. You know, I got good departments down here I rely upon, you know. I call upon when I need help, and for the most part, I get it. So,
morning to 8 at night, that's half a day.
Well, and Padre Bay also, being fair, was more shovel-ready and farther along in the design process, and they're still working on IB McGee. I know you're being tongue-in-cheek, but I mean, to let you know, because certainly we all want to get IB McGee going too, and I know that's certainly the judge's priority for years, and that is moving forward. It's just that Padre Bay was farther ahead because there were already some funds available. We just added to the funds. Oh, I know you were.
I just wanted to know, so in case somebody asked me, hey, what are y'all doing? I can say, well, they're going to do Padre Bay this year, and next year IB McGee. So.
Right. And just so you have
Good, Scott.
Okay, yes, sir. But just so you know why I'm asking for a $10,000 increase on that line item on professional services. What that line item does for me a lot of times, we've been really, really successful with grant opportunities and finding funding. I've got actually 2 federal agencies who are actually reaching out to me, asking me to come to get money from them. And so a lot of times that line item there helps to cover small engineering services agreements that I need, or that aren't tied to any major capital project. A lot of times it helps me with some grant writing and administration that I have to have. I do that to supplement Roxy's efforts, because I think she does a fabulous job, but she has a tremendous amount on her plate with this whole entire county. So with us internalizing that, it helps her a lot. and we really work as a great team there. So that's what that's for. That's it. It's really again, very small impact, but it sure does help. And every year, we're good with our budget. We look in here and we find ways of that. Okay, well, we'll do a line item transfer here and there. We might push. The biggest line item that I have problems with every year is the overtime line item. I'm always having to supplement that and transfer around, but I'd never increase my total budget. I know that Dale and Steve see the overtime all the regularly, but the demand is on us. We run. The only time those parks are closed on Christmas Day and New Year's Day. Other than that, we're there the other 363 days of the year. From 8 till 11 at night. So we got people there. We got to take care of them. That's all I have.
Any other questions?
Great job. Good job.
Thank you.
You all do a great job out there.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
And we had something else happen this past weekend. We worked Friday and Saturday. The Texas State Guard worked on an exercise with them for them to come in and evaluate all the facilities.
Yeah.
That way I can always be ahead of that and not have that have a budget impact.
Yeah.
So
Thank you.
Excited about that.
Good job.
Thank y'all.
Tell your crew we appreciate all they do out there.
I sure will.
Thank you. They really do a good job.
Thanks, Dale. And Dale helps me a lot. So does Steve, no offense. And see y'all Wednesday.
Okay, thank you. Well, Ida, you can be early if you'd like to be early, and you can go back home and count your books or something. And
We've got a lot of stuff going on.
thank you.
For your information, we've asked the district attorney to come up early too. So.
I hope so.
Yeah. Move along.
It's always
Thank you.
Okay. Good morning, Judge, Commissioners, and I'm very happy to be here this morning. I've got a few things on my wish list for this coming year. We have been having very good at the library. I know we're not profiting, we're just service-oriented, but my staff and I have been trying to do a lot with what we've been dealing with the past couple of years, and we still need a little bit more of help. This year, with my budget, I did ask for a little bit of increase in my salaries for my staff. And that being said, I do have an IT staff, and last year when he came on board, he did get a step down of pay, and I would like to have it increased to what it was originally, but since that position was part-time staff, and it became full-time last year, I'm hoping that we could have it increased back to the way it was and get an upgrade on that. And he does a lot of work, and I don't want him to leave, because sometimes people say, well, they're only IT, but it takes a lot for them to do the job, especially when it comes to the automation system that we have, and then they learn it. And he's been there for, I guess, about nine months. He came on board last August, September, and he's been doing a very good job. And he came from Austin and has been in town for a while, and I want him to stay where he's at. So I'm hoping that we could get that back up.
Let me clarify. The $44,000 isn't all a salary increase. Is
No,
40,
that's...
Let's clarify. You started the year with a part-time position.
Yes.
You came to the court in December and got changed into the court. So the court has already approved the full-time position.
Yes.
And so that's part of the $44,000 increase in budget. Is that?
Well, his increase in salary is only going to be $5,000.
That's the point I'm trying to get across.
Yes, it's only $5,000. And the other additional is going to be for, I would like an additional librarian position. So for the microcomputer library position, his salary increase would be about 5,600 more additional a year. And then for the, I'm also asking for another librarian position, because right now we're only two. It's me and Laura, who's the children's librarian. And since we're getting a lot of, two additional grants this year, it's going to increase the workload for Laura and I, especially in the programming that we're going to have that I'll discuss in a minute. And what I would like that position to be is called the Technical Services and Information Literacy Librarian. And the salary that I would like for it to begin is at the $38,000, which is pretty much a beginning stages librarian. And so that's what I have for those two positions in my library salary, or both.
You take a look what I have on the screen, we'll show you what she's, the breakout of what she
There it is.
So it's going to be the upgrade for my IT person plus 38,646 for the librarian position. And in TEL for that, this year we received a grant from the Family Place Libraries, which Laura and I went to New York and learned a lot about the programming that Family Place Library does. And what we decided is to also apply for an additional grant. And Laura had applied for it back in March, April. And that's information that I forwarded to you, that we received $75,000. So this coming fall, we will be getting $75,000, and it's going to be for a lot of computers for the youth of the county. And what we're going to do is put the majority of those computers in, which is the gift shop right now, which Laura has been conducting her little children's programming, because it's in a little isolated area, and since they're for toddlers, so now we're going to have to move things around, because what Laura intends to do with the programming for the grant is to have a lot of literacy, computer literacy classes, programming, and the computers that she's going to be purchasing are called gaming computers, but they're not necessarily for gaming. They're called gaming because they have a lot of memory, so they can do a lot of work on them. She wants to do Photoshop, editing, video, and do a lot of programming. And in the contract that she sent to the state for the grant, it's going to allow her to get people to come in to teach them. And one of the teachers that she contacted was one of the teachers from Calallen, and she told them all the new features that they're doing in the classroom, and she's going to communicate with her, and if we can't get her to come and conduct some of those classes, we'll get somebody else who teaches classes that are specific in programming or computers and computer literacy. And so there's a lot of things that we're going to be doing, especially here at the Keach Library and also at the Bishop Library, because the grant does allow for the computers to be purchased at both libraries, and she'll be doing both programming at the both places. $75,000. And so she's, yes, sir. And the good thing about this grant is that it's called an impact grant.
Hold on just a second.
Yes, sir.
You said $75,000 grant to purchase computers?
Yes.
Okay, what about the maintenance and software for those computers?
Well, it's going to be also included, most of that. It's going to be including the software that she needs to
How many
add to it.
computers are you talking about?
I think it was, let me tell you, sir. It's on that little brochure.
$75,000 will buy a lot of computers.
Yes. And she had it broken down. Okay. She's going to purchase 10
Do
of
we
the
have that
desktop.
information in here?
It's on page
Yes.
page four, there's two page fours, so it's second page 404.
She's going to purchase 10 of the XPS gaming computers, and it's going to be for $16,000. And then she's going to purchase 11 computers, the desktop 3,000, and that's going to be $13,000. She's also going to purchase an LCD projector, a printer, a scanner, digital camera, camcorder, and I also included the AW stations, which are after-school edge computers, and the other one is called, there's two different types. And those
Let
two...
me ask you, your grant computers you don't have in this budget.
No, sir. I just wanted to mention...
Answer Commissioner's question,
Yeah.
We don't have that page in here. That's what you have in yours.
I think it is, sir, on the
that
additional information, on the one that says Texas State Library and Archives Commission, the one in the very back. It lists you the scenario of all the information that she's going to buy.
Oh, that.
Which one now?
The one that says Texas State Library and Archives Commission, the narrative.
Are you
At the
talking
very
about
end.
the handout?
Yes, the very end. There's a handout that's got a lot of information. That one, Steve. It should be the last batch of, it should tell you how many computers she's going to be buying. Let me see where that one is. And if not, I will send you the information, sir.
Yeah,
I think it was on the original document that I submitted to you that had the grant information. It had all of the,
when did we get that document?
about last week, 2 weeks ago. Yeah. And, but these computers, I mean, it's going to be at least 20 computers for the Keach Library and six for Bishop. And all of these are going to have the software, everything for it.
Okay. I guess what I'm trying to wrap my head around is what the traditional responsibilities of a library is. And a library, to me, is a library where people go to check out books, read books. You're going to bring in some e-books, which I think is a really good idea. But now we're teaching computer labs
Well, it's going to be computer literacy.
with gaming PCs and
Well, yeah, and normally this is what's been going on in all the libraries. It's because what we're trying to get them to do.
doesn't mean
sir-
I agree with it, Ida.
Well, I know, but what we're trying to do, sir, is provide a service to the students who are not learning how to use, it's not just going to be for teaching them how to do Photoshop or editing or video. We're also going to teach them how to use the tech services that we have online, which is how to look up information for using when they have projects for science projects. So Laura's going to be teaching them how to use all that texture information that we get for free from the Texas State Library, is teach them how to use and how to do specific projects and how to get into it, because a lot of them, they don't use it at their school, or they don't have the accessibility at the libraries. And so Laura's going to teach them how to use all of that there at the library, and then have specific classes on how to use the computers, how to use Microsoft Word,
But I still
PowerPoint.
don't see where that's our responsibility.
Well, as a library,
The schools are not providing that, which I would think that's where they ought to be learning that, because, I mean, I go out to Toloso Midway's computer lab, and it looks better than anything I've ever seen. So, I guess I'm having a hard time, and not to say that this is a bad program
no.
at all, I'm just trying to resolve why we're putting in computer labs at the library to teach what I think the school districts are to be responsible for teaching.
well, and I'll go back and reiterate, it's not so much that we're going to be teaching them how to use the computer. We want them to learn how to use the software that we have on hand in order for them to be able to do their projects at school. So, and that's for anybody, whether you're in high school, elementary, or in college, they come to us for a service, and that's provide for them how to use the ProQuest or any piece of software that we have. And we have free technology there at the library, and it's called the texture databases, for them to come look up any magazines for any project that they may have, whether it's for a history project, a science project, or even the little kids. They have to do all these science projects, and a lot of them, they don't have the books at the library for all the kids in all the communities, whether it's, Toloso, Calallen, Bishop, and Katy, or even, right now, we've been servicing the people from Kingsville because they still have mold in their library. So we're getting many new patrons that are coming back and forth, because that's just a service that we're providing. And they need to use our services, whether it's the computers to look up information for their science projects or anything. So that's just something that we have not been able to do because we have a limited computers for adults. So now Laura's going to be teaching these classes on teaching them how to use all the software that we've had there forever, and we haven't been able to teach it because we need like an enclosed area. So now she can do that separately.
But shouldn't we, doesn't that require then additional resources and staff time and more?
And on her grant, sir, it does allow her to have, she did set aside that on her grant for staffing, and it does have here how many people for our consultant fees, and so she did ask for it on her documentation. And I forwarded it to you, but I will send it to you again so you can see everything that she asked for and the consulting fees and, but we do have our own staff that are going to be there, and they can be monitoring, on specific times that she will be conducting these specific classes. She's going to have somebody come in, or she and I, because that's my job. I mean, I have had grants before, and I teach classes, literacy classes for computers on how to use Microsoft Word, PowerPoint, Excel, how to get on Facebook. These are just things that people don't know how to do, and we
And I
teach.
get that, but I mean, the thing is too, is I have to agree with Mike. I mean, it seems like we're getting into something that's not the county's responsibility. I mean, this should be the school districts, Del Mar, A&M Corpus Christi. We have all these institutions of higher learning and high schools, and I mean, Del Mar's expanding constantly, A&M Corpus Christi's expanding constantly. Now the county wants to get into the debate of trying to better educate people on computers too. I don't think that's the county's job.
Well, and that's what I've been doing, because when I got my grant last year for $10,000, and I purchased 7 computers, and I was conducting literacy classes for adults and for children on how to use the basics, because they don't know how to use basic computers. They don't know how to do that.
And I think it's nice that you're doing it. I'm
And it's
just
a part
trying
of the library's job to do that, to teach classes on.
And I have to agree with Ida, there's never enough. I mean, I know Toloso, Calala, whatever, they might have labs, but they're not open all the time. Kids go home a certain time, and they need to go and do more work in the computers and go to a computer lab somewhere. And, there are adults out there that don't have the education that they need, and, and research. I think that the more our libraries can provide, the better we're off, and the better the citizens are off. I think it's all about education. We always talk about education and trying to get people educated, and, then we don't want to expand their education to the community. And, I don't think we should put it's a library, so all you can do is check books, nothing else. I don't think that's really a library either. You go to A&M University, and they're out there doing all kinds of sort things in their lab over there, but once they go home, where are they going to go? They're not going to go back to university in the evening because it's a long way there. But I think the more that their libraries can provide to the citizens of those communities and the rural areas, I think the better off that they will be. There's never enough. Education goes a long ways, and when you say, well, we already have an education because somebody Toloso with Calalan or somebody else is doing it already. To me, there's no duplication on education. We don't have enough. People teaching education and teaching labs and teaching computers, and a lot of people don't go to school. A lot of people go out there, they're ready to finish school, and they need to go to libraries and learn. So just, I kind of have to back up Ida on this here, that the more we can have out there, the better our community will be as far as education is concerned.
And I don't disagree with Commissioner Gonzalez's sentiment, but constitutionally, we are not charged with educating the public. We are charged with providing basic county government services. That's what the Constitution dictates. The Constitution and the laws of our land also provide that the school districts and the colleges, they're the ones who are supposed to do that. Otherwise, we are duplicating, because it's the same taxpayer dollars that are paying for all of these services that we're providing.
Commissioner,
in a perfect
I
world,
don't want to interrupt you, but,
Sure.
somebody is giving us $75,000. They're giving us $75,000, and you were saying we're not going to take it?
No. I'm saying, why don't we work with the school districts? That's where I was going with it before I was interrupted.
If the school district was interested, or the school districts, this is a state library. We serve all the school districts. We're not isolating and saying this is just for Calalan, or this is just for Annaville, or for any. I know Annaville is not a school district, but we're not specifying this is for. I've got a library from Brownsville. If you go into the Brownsville library and you go into in their computer section, they have got more libraries than, I don't know, probably more than what you've got at the Corpus Christi Library.
But what happens when the computers break down and we need more staff and the grant money goes away and we've started these programs and then we have to subsidize all these things? What happens when that happens?
Well,
They don't
I'm not
replace
sure.
the computers for us.
Do we know that we're going to have to subsidize them? I mean, we have the ability to use $75,000 for X number of years or X number of months. Why not take advantage of it and train some people? Literacy is, this is, if computer literacy is not literacy, and literacy should be excluded from the library, then why do we have libraries?
Well, that's a good question too,
why-
but
so,
we can't go back to
why
that
are we
one.
going to stigmatize the fact that this lady is trying to do something good for not only for the Robstown community, for the Nueces County community, but for the state of Texas? Anybody who wants to come in and has an appointment to learn something, why do we want to put a barrier to learning?
It's not a barrier to learning. I'm just saying there's other places we could work with to also utilize this
This opportunity
grant.
is being presented to us right now.
Okay, and it's just, I'm just providing different alternatives to where we could say.
Give us an alternative then.
Okay, well, there's other libraries there, there's
What's an
other.
alternative?
Well, I'm trying to, but I keep getting interrupted. So, I mean, why couldn't we work with the school districts, with A&M, with Del Mar, with those kind of groups, to use these resources to help those people, which are also community things as well? That's an alternative, because once we start a program, I've never seen us stop a program. So it starts with a grant, and then we end up, down the road, the grant goes away, but then there's this big compelling thing that we have to end up funding it, because once you start it, it's kind of the nose under the tent deal. I'm just concerned about it.
I don't think we know that for sure, Commissioner.
We don't know anything for sure, but I've never seen us stop a program.
You're anticipating or thinking, well, we don't know, maybe the grant goes, everything goes. That happens before, many
You
times.
go to Del Mar to take a course, they're going to charge you. People from Robstown cannot go to Del Mar because they're not in the district.
They can go to their library.
They cannot go take a course. This lady is offering you, I'm sorry, I get excited, I forget names.
But if you use this grant to let Del Mar do the same things we're doing, then the people could go in and do it. That's all I'm saying.
Well,
is
if you want
could
to send volunteers and use our Robstown library in Robstown or the library in Bishop,
right?
Sure.
That's all I'm saying. It's just, I mean, I'm just.
When we, why we have the library in Robstown? Because the libraries in Annabelle, when our citizens in the unincorporated areas wanted to use a library, they were wanting to charge them $25 to get a library card.
And they still do.
How much do you pay at the state library to get a library card? It's free.
Anybody, and if they want to use the library,
We're providing a free service over here. We're not charging anybody, and we're receiving free money, and we're saying, no, we don't want it because...
That's not what we're saying. I'm just saying, look at different ways of using it.
It's not my favorite institution?
No, I'm saying look at different ways of using it. It has nothing to do with my favorite institution. I don't think we ought to be in the library business, quite frankly.
Well,
But we are, and I'm going to do the best we can.
Other than yours.
Well, okay, but I was asking questions and giving my opinion before you interrupted me. So, and you can interrupt me, but it doesn't mean I'm going to, not indicate that I think we ought to look at different alternatives just because there's free money for now. So.
And something to interject about that, sir, is that because we got it for this year, Laura, we also have the opportunity for 2 years in additional to add an additional $75,000 for next year and the following. So it'll be a total of $225,000 that we can ask for in the next 3 years.
I want to go back to what I was talking
Yes,
to a while ago, and you can help clarify this for me. And you may have given it to me, I apologize, I don't
Yes, sir.
remember. But I'd like to see your breakdown of
Yes.
how you're going to spend the money, for the $75,000, because the thing I'm concerned about is the maintenance of all of that on a go-forward basis, because if you buy the number of computers you're indicating here, that's a lot of hardware, a lot of software, all that requires maintenance. So on year 2 and year 3 and year 4, if you've got the ability to go get additional grant money, that's fine, you can use that for the maintenance. But you know as well as I do that those computers are just like everything else. They deteriorate, they have problems, things break down, and you're going to have to maintain those, which is going to cause additional expense. So I just need a little help with what your budget looks like.
And I'll forward you the paperwork again so you can see the breakdown, because on Laura's documentation, it does list everything that she's going to get. And I know it's something that maybe you may not think that it's something that we need to provide, but as a library, all the libraries provide the service. They provide computer literacy, information literacy, whether it's a book or an e-book or a computer, and people go there, and especially being where we are at. We are in an underprivileged area where it's low income, people do not have computers at home. And so we need to provide that service, whether it's for them to print a resume or to print a Word document or help them create Excel or PowerPoint presentations for the classrooms. That's what we offer. That's just what we're supposed to do. And to continue with my budget.
And let me just say, because I really had a point I wanted to wrap up on before I was interrupted, is
Yes.
I think you're doing a great job out there. I just am concerned about what Commissioner Pusley was saying is, if we buy stuff, and I'm not trying to put words in his mouth, let me just say what I'm concerned about. I'm concerned about if we buy stuff, and if we add staff, or we do things like that, and then the grant money goes away, then we potentially end up with maintenance on that, and the staff that we've added and so forth, which is really hard to go backwards once we do it. So I'm just, that's what my concern is if when we get into it, we can't keep it, or we have to maintain it, and we have to spend a lot of extra money maintaining it that the grant monies don't cover or they go away. I do appreciate you indicating that there's additional potential grant money, because that makes a difference, and some of that could be set aside for maintenance and things of that nature. And maybe I missed that the first time around, but I didn't hear the second couple years of that as well.
And so that's why we're fortunate that the Texas State Library does have additional funding, and this is called a special grant. And there's also the impact grant, so there's always a lot of grants that we apply for, and we continue to do reporting and everything else. But what I'm also asking on my budget is, let me see where we're at, $2,500 for other personnel expenses. Okay, in order for Laura to conduct her classes and contact vendors, I'd like for her to have a separate line item for her contractual. So I did ask for an additional $2,500, because it has been difficult for us to have contract work coming into the library since we do not have a budget. And so I wanted to set that aside to make sure that we could get additional funding or get funding for that. And so I did set aside $2,500 for that. And for capital outlay, I did have funding for $44,000, and that is to ask for some computers for Bishop also. I need desperately for the fall. I will need Microsoft software and antivirus upgrades. They all expire in November, so I want to have at least 15 upgraded in the fall, and maybe 15 the following year. And a handicap accessible. We have had a few customers that have come in that either come in a wheelchair and it is very expensive to have one at least. So we'd like to have at least one of those stations, and the software for it is very pricey. So that's at least $10,000 for handicap accessible software and equipment. And we will need some additional shelving for books, and at least $5,000 for this coming year, and then deep freeze software for both libraries. And I did fail to add the Barracuda web filtering, but that is something that we need desperately, and it's about $5,700, and I forgot to put it on there, but I'm going to mention it anyway. The filtering is for us to be able to filter when the patrons are online, and that's because we are having a lot of experiencing some patrons who are refusing to stay on sites that are legitimate, and that's...
You're being too kind. What Commissioners, what Ida's having problems with is we've got some people coming over the library and using our computers to watch porn.
Yes.
So the filtering device she's talking about is a very common filtering device that most computers use. But Ida, after you and I discussed this the other day, I started doing some research, and actually there is a Supreme Court ruling that says if an adult comes into our a public library that's receiving public funds and asks to be able to view adult material, we have to let them do
They
it.
can, and that is in stone,
Now, what we have to have is a policy.
yes.
Before we implement this hardware that filters, and I went and printed out several, I printed out the City of Houston's library policy, the City of Brownsville, I looked up several different ones. And Your Honor, we're going to have to set in place a policy that governs our library so that when
I agree.
those situations come up,
I agree.
we're legally protected, because if we don't,
I know.
we're in big trouble.
I
We
agree.
can always set aside one computer, and it's not going to be a sit-down computer, it's going to be a standalone that's going to be standing, and you will have a limited time to do that, because, we will provide that option, but it has to be
Well,
something that they're not going to be
But Ida,
comfortable.
we can't just say we're going to do that.
We have to have the policy.
have
Yes.
a policy in
Yes, sir.
place
Yes, we do,
that this Commissioners Court will adopt
yes.
that says these are the rules and regulations, and what you can make them do when they come in and say, I want to watch adult
Yes,
porn sites on your library computer, we can say, okay, where's your library card? We're going to scan that, and you're going to be able to use it for X amount of time.
yes,
You can do that. So we have to have a policy before we set that in stone,
yes,
okay?
Please get us the policy.
yes.
So that should be high on your priority list.
And right now, we've just installed, today and tomorrow, David is installing the Envisionware, and that is the limitation for people who are on the computers. And so he's just going to install it today. They're getting ready to do it today and tomorrow. So as soon as I come back next week for my conference, we'll get something for the limitations of the computer so the Commissioners Court can
Well,
review that
get
as
with
well.
the county attorney,
Yes.
please. And as I've asked you all before, let's get that done, please.
And anybody have any questions, anything else?
I think we've had a lot of questions this morning.
Down here on other capital outlay requests.
Yes, sir.
The 3M security system, what is that?
Oh, okay, and I didn't go to that section. For the Bishop Library, since Mr. Gonzalez is going to be doing the expansion, we need security gates for when the people are coming in and out of the library with books, and since it's going to be a bigger area, and I only have one staff, we need the gates at the entrance of the library for Bishop.
Okay.
So we're gonna need that, bookshelves, and video surveillance. Since she's
Wouldn't that
open.
all be part of the expansion project?
I was
I
hoping-
mean, rolled into that?
Should be.
Should be.
I know.
Okay. And Ida, how many total employees do you have at the county library?
I have 5 full-time staff, including me.
Include you?
Yes, sir. And then right now I have 5 temporary staff that are at the Keach Library.
5 part-time?
Part-time temporary staff. And at the Bishop Library, I have a part-time staff that works 20 hours.
How many?
One.
One.
She works 20
One
hours.
at Bishop.
In Bishop, yes, sir.
Okay. Any other questions?
Do those 5 full-time, are they spread between Bishop and Lobstown?
Well, yes, because Laura has to go over there when she does special programming. She'll go and conduct a class or do a little workshop, but pretty much she's full-time. That's Laura, my children's librarian.
Okay, and please understand, I fully support getting this Barracuda filtering system, but by law, we have
Yes.
to have a policy in
And I
place before
understand.
we can implement that.
Yes. Because the majority of the libraries that do have filtering, they do have,
A policy.
yes.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Have a good day.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Judge, I see you out there. Good morning, sir. Would you like to make a comment or anything this morning?
I was passing by and I heard the Commissioner
Give them each
something about
this year.
free money.
This wasn't part of the package. For
I
whatever reason, that's the list that you
free
was
money.
going to look for. That wasn't part of this package you give me, so
Attorney's office is-
just give it to each of us.
Always want free money, Judge.
Your Honor, you're always welcome.
Give away from when he was.
Yeah, when, thank you very much, Ida. Ida, you guys do a great job over there. Thank you. Very good. Thank you. Mark, you're early, but we're glad to see you, and always glad to have Judge Longoria here and asking for free money, but welcome.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you.
Commissioners, good morning. Judge, good morning. Thank you for allowing me the chance to talk to you today. If I could, though, I would like to defer to Judge Longoria to go first. I know he has a trial going on this morning, having a jury come forth, so I'd like him to go ahead and take his place if he could.
Thank you. Commissioners and Your Honor, we're having a problem in our courts that every 3 months I'm getting a new prosecutor because my trained prosecutors are leaving for better money. And I think this past year I've lost 3 good prosecutors. And you know, as y'all well know, I'm the easiest judge up there, and I work with my... I'm sorry, I don't have water.
Your Honor, I'm worried about the weather and lightning striking here, so would you cut that?
No, so I'm here really in support of the budget for additional monies for Mr. Skirka's prosecutors. I know of 2 that have gone down the street, and $30,000 more they've received in this car allowance plus a car. And I think that it's important for the Council of Judges to support Ms. Skirka. We have discussed it in the meeting. Judge Hassett is our presiding judge. I'm presiding right now while she's on vacation. But I told Ms. Skirka, of course, we will go down there and tell the commissioners and Commissioners Court the importance of having prosecutors that'll stay, because we're training them. He trains them. They go to these conferences, they get trained, and all of a sudden somebody else in San Antonio or in Alice will offer them $20,000, $30,000 more, and they're gone. So we've lost all that money. And as far as the judges are concerned, obviously we're going to work with the prosecutors we have. I've got a brand new prosecutor. It's been here maybe a month now. Smart young man. He's going to make a fantastic lawyer, and he already is. In fact, he's waiting for me to go back down to deal with the jury. But, you know, if I lose him in another 3-6 months to a year, it doesn't do us any good to be training these people, and they take off for better money. So I told Mark a while back when we discussed it in the Council of Judges that we would support him, and that's why I'm here today. And like I said, as the acting presiding judge, I'm asking the Commissioners Court to consider the budget that he's requesting for additional monies for his prosecutors. These are felony. I don't know what he's doing with the county prosecutors, but they eventually move up to district court. And it's important that we recognize the fact that our crime rate is increasing. I think it was just about every week we have another murder in Nueces County, and that falls in our district courts. And we have to have the prosecutors trained to be able to try that case. So with that, I will leave you. I appreciate the fact that you allow me to come visit with y'all for just a few minutes, but that's all I wanted to do.
Well, Your Honor, thank you, and on behalf of all the judges, we appreciate your coming down, and we understand the seriousness of the problem, and we're not saying yes or no this morning, but we're certainly going to listen.
I appreciate it.
Yes,
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Judge. Thank you. Good luck today.
I'll watch my free money comments, Judge.
Thank you, Judge Longoria, for those words. Before I begin my presentation, I just want to echo some of the things he said. It's just like him. He said he and the other judges are sometimes frustrated. They turn around and they have a new prosecutor all the time, and we do lose people to neighboring counties and other counties. But I have prepared a brief overview. I know you have our packet, but I've prepared a brief overview of our request, and I'd like to share that with you at this time. First of all, our basic request is a three-step job class increase for all of our prosecutors, except for our supervisors, where we're asking for a two-step salary increase. The numbers are in front of you, and I'll get those in just a minute. I'm also asking for a three-step increase in salary for our support staff. As you know, behind every good prosecutor stands a good investigator, a good secretary, a good administrator who can help get them the tools that they need to try these cases. In addition, I'm requesting 2 additional secretaries.
May I just clarify? You say step, it's actually pay group, I think.
I think it's pay group.
And pay group equates to, a three-step equates to 15%.
The 2 additional secretaries I'm going to ask for is, one is for discovery. The discovery issues are very multifaceted in our county. Ever since the Michael Morton Act passed, we've had kind of a burden and had to take secretaries off their regular duties to help do discovery for that. We're also trying to get a new program involved to help us with the police department get the discovery to the other side. We're also asking for an additional secretary for the appellate side. We've had 4 appellate attorneys who have no secretary at all, and we try to bring in a part-time to help them, but they need some help there, and again, we'll go into that detail in a minute. We're also in the overview asking for a replacement vehicle for the investigator. We have a 2007 car that needs to be replaced, and we're asking that you fund the felony 3 position that used to be the child abuse prosecutor. Well, the details kind of go like this. Our starting salary for misdemeanor prosecutors at this time is $49,000. I did a salary survey 2 years ago, which y'all were nice enough to give us a 1-step increase, but I had asked for a 3-step increase then. That would mean our minimum starting salary for misdemeanor prosecutors would be $56,721. That by no means is sufficient. It should be around $60,000 actually, but I knew this was going to be a big hit asking for the 3-step increase, and so I've kind of just picked out something between $55,000 and $60,000. The reason I say that, if you look at our salary survey that I did in 2013, most other offices start people at least $55,000 to $60,000 and sometimes more. This would make us more competitive with other counties, both neighboring and same size jurisdiction, to raise that salary increase from $49,000 to $56,000 as a starting salary. Felonies, our starting salary is $53,996, which is about $54,000. I'm asking that to be increased too, which would make it a starting salary of $62,400. Now, those numbers seem like a lot, but in comparison to other counties of this size and neighboring counties, it's not much. In Sinton, for example, I think Judge Longoria mentioned the starting salary for a felony prosecutor over there is $70,000. I have prosecutors I lost to Jim Wells County for $90,000. So that's by no means out of the ordinary with other starting salaries. In Kingsville, for example, they just lost one of their felony prosecutors, and she was making $80,000 a year doing felonies. Our prosecutors are woefully underfunded there. Now, that's the starting salary. We have a range where it goes up to a higher thing, and I think it would top out around $80,000. That, again, is not that unusual, too. If you go to other places like Bell County and everything, they start at $72,000. They top out $80,000, $90,000, almost $100,000. Ours would still be in line. And we had a couple of prosecutors leave because they were topped out here. They weren't going to make any more money unless they became supervisors. So that's kind of the overview of it. People talk about turnover and how it affects us. I've made a grid or a scale showing how many people we've lost. We've actually, between the end of 2014 and 2015, we lost 12 people in the span of about 3 or 4 months. A huge turnover. Some went to other offices, some retired, some went to be civil lawyers or defense attorneys, but we've had many more leave so far this year in 2015 than we've had since back in 2010. And again, that that change affects prosecutors, courts, daily. What happens is, for example, you could become a misdemeanor prosecutor. I'm sending people up there who've never seen these cases before. They're fresh out of law school or fresh to this position, and they're having to assume huge caseloads and take over cases. A lot of times, and you can talk to defense lawyers and judges, defense lawyer will talk to maybe 3 or 4 different prosecutors on the same case because we have to change around to plug the dike. And that's what I felt like the end of 2014, 2015. The little boy putting his finger in the dike couldn't fill up the holes. Judges get upset when they lose a prosecutor because they're not as efficient. They can't move their cases as quickly. A prosecutor who's been there 3 months cannot move a case as efficiently as somebody who's been here 3 years. In fact, if you had a magical world, a person should be doing misdemeanors for 3 or 4 years before they move up to felonies. In fact, we've had to move people been there 6 months to a year and move them up to felonies because I have no one else. Some examples of these people that have left, and I didn't put their names, but I put their initials here. We just lost somebody to Kerr County, Kerrville, Texas, for $65,000. She's starting at $65,000 there when we start people at $49,000 here. She was in a felony court, had been here 2 or 3 years. I think it was 2.5 years. She was in a felony court, and she's getting $9,000 more to start at the beginning and do misdemeanor prosecution. I don't even know what the population of Kerr County is, but there's only four prosecutors besides the elected DA and the elected county attorney in the office she's going to, and she's making considerably more. We had a couple of people we lost to Denton for $10,000 more. One was already a felony prosecutor, one was a misdemeanor prosecutor, and those were starting level salaries. They're getting $10,000 more. We had a couple that left, and they were the ones that were topped out. One was our gang prosecutor, one was our child abuse prosecutor, and been here 7 or 8 years, and they were just topped out, and they couldn't make any more money, and they got more money in San Antonio right away. And same thing with one of our young men that left. His wife got transferred. His wife's a doctor and got a job in New Braunfels. He went to the DA's office. He told me his interview, he got hired in 10 minutes because he knew they knew the training that we had given him would help them in San Antonio, and he got an $11,000 raise. And then lastly, the one from Fort Bend County got about a $12,000 raise to go to Fort Bend County. These are just some of the people that have left in the last year or so. The other ones that I didn't put on there are ones who've either retired or went to civil firms or became defense lawyers. So that just shows that almost anywhere you go, from Bexar County to Kerr County to Fort Bend County, people are making more money than our people are making. And it really affects us in the courtroom. Everybody has to change around. We don't have anybody in court to know their cases. The judges don't know these people, and they haven't had time to get acquainted to it. Training is a big deal. It's really, really frustrating, as the judge said, to have somebody here for a year or 2 or 3, and then they just go because they're going to make more money. I can't stop them, because I know they're going to make more money somewhere else, and there's a good chance for them to move up and make ultimately a lot more money. Investigators, I'm asking those to be equalized. When we had that set up as a chief investigator, that's when Craig Hill was here. Craig Hill was here like 30 years, and he was a chief investigator, and we had another one underneath him. All of our investigators are now equalized. We have 2 in felony court and 1 in misdemeanor court, and their duties are equalized, but their pay is not. It's very difficult to hire somebody because most not reputable, but confident law enforcement officials they laugh at our starting salary. And so for investigators, I'm asking that to be increased too. Our secretaries are the backbone of the office and our support staff. I mean, without the witness office people, the crime victim assistants, and the secretaries, we'd just be lost. And we've had a huge turnover in secretaries too, because they can always go and make some more money someplace else. And it's not always just in civil firms. One left to go work for Aransas County because she was going to make a lot more money. The turnover in secretaries is bad because, again, things back up on the paperwork and getting stuff ready for court. And we are asking for a new secretary for appeals and discovery. The Michael Morton Act has affected us in all kinds of ways. We've tried to deal with it with existing staff. Well, it's been very difficult to do that. We do the best we can, but we need help in the discovery area and in the appeals section. And one thing I should point out as far as the new secretaries, I don't think we've had a new secretary position created in many, many years. And Connie Hernandez, our office manager, can attest to that. But it's been probably over 10 years since we've even got a new position, even though we've increased prosecutor staff. Again, our Impala, our 2007 Impala needs to be replaced. That was another hand-me-down that we kind of get. It's been in the repair shop over and over again, and so we're asking that to be replaced. The Attorney 3 position, this was a situation that Carlos Valdez had with the previous Commissioner's Court when to start it off with the anticipation the county would take over that, but unfortunately it's never been done, and so we're still having to eat that salary through our asset forfeiture funds. Which brings me to the second point. We pay for 2 attorneys out of our asset forfeiture fund. One is the asset forfeiture attorney himself, which I understand that I can pay for that, but it's just strange to have us paying for another regular attorney out of that fund. In addition, we pay for, I think, 5 or 7 other attorneys through our asset forfeiture fund, through our pretrial diversion fund, and I know we've talked to our county auditor, Dale, about that, and sometimes we're hoping to get enough money out of that, but it's kind of a close call, and it may have a shortfall on that too. And I just wanted to remind the court that, we're doing our share too, because we're funding people out of asset forfeiture and the pretrial diversion fund too. And the final thing I'd like to say is we always talk about wants and needs at budget times, and I know that the commissioners have an awesome job to delegate this money to the appropriate resources and delegate this to appropriate departments. And we always try to separate between wants and needs. And I know it seems like these are things that I want, but I think it's really a need. I think these needs are very important and they've been long overlooked. One of the needs is that Nueces County needs to have top-of-the-line prosecutors to protect our community. I'd much rather send a person in there with 5 or 10 years experience against a defense attorney who's had 5 or 10 years experience. Unfortunately, I'm sending babies up there who have less than 6 years experience, and they're going against these defense lawyers who are some former prosecutors and people who have 5 to 10 or more experience, and they just try to chew them up. And it's very hard for us to deal with that. We do as good as we can. I think they're good fighters there. I try to give them all the training I can, but you cannot match experience. And so when you send a person up there with less than 6 months experience against a defense attorney who's got a lot of experience, it's very tough. It's very struggling. And we need to have those top-of-the-line prosecutors, and just to help them out, we need the top-of-the-line salaries to pay these assistants that secretary assistants and support staff to support those folks, because the bottom line is our community. We have to protect people. I have that obligation. I do the best I can with what I have, but it's time for Nueces County to step up and fund these salaries and fund these people so we could have a great prosecutor's office that we can be proud of. I'm very proud of the people I have. They work very hard for low wages and long hours. I see them here on the weekends. I see them here late at night working and preparing their cases. They have to have something that they can rely on, and to rely on is a steady paycheck, the fact that they're going to be paid commensurate with other offices this size in neighboring counties. You think I feel bad about it. How do you think they feel when they find out somebody's gone to this other county and gotten a $10,000, $15,000 raise? How do you think they feel when they find somebody's gone down to Sinton and makes $70,000, which is $10,000 or $15,000 more than they make? It's discouraging. We need to reverse that trend and to make up for that, and I'd ask your help in doing that.
Mark, thank you very much for your in-depth presentation. And do you have any idea what your proposed salary increase for your attorneys and your administrative secretaries and all that you have on this page 2 of 5 in your proposal, what that cost would be?
No, I never got that. I heard Teresa had worked that up, or the auditor's office had worked that up.
I have just estimated that 15% increase in their salaries would be about $450,000.
$450.
And I think you've looked at basically all your positions, have you not, Mike? Mark?
Yes.
So 15% increase to what they're budgeted right now.
I'm sorry, there's a couple that I didn't ask for increase. The asset forfeiture attorney and one of our
appellate benefits?
No, that's salary only.
So we're talking about over $500,000?
Yes.
Plus another $150,000 for new people?
Yeah. Yes, sir.
So we're up to $650,000 or $700,000.
I know it sounds like a lot, Judge. It is a lot, but historically our office has been underfunded, and it still is. It's hard to compete against these other counties that are our size and neighboring counties.
Mark, I understand. We understand. It's not that we're not empathetic. I think we are empathetic.
I know you are, Judge, and I appreciate you giving me the opportunity to do this. I feel I have to stand up for my people.
You do?
And do the best I can for them, and whatever you can do, I would appreciate for the sake of our office and the sake of our community.
Questions of the district attorney? Commissioners, anyone? Anyone?
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Thank you both. Thanks for coming down, and thank you for being here. We'll certainly take a hard look at this.
We appreciate your consideration.
Thank you. Okay.
Judge, I have
That is,
Judge.
Sir?
I'd like to have a little time to do a little
No, I understand. I was just about to say, that's all of our presentations that we have, formal presentations. Commissioner Gonzalez is asked to bring some information to the court this morning, and
Pass those down, Judge, please.
I'm sure it's connection with the budget, and so, here you go.
Steve?
Thank you. Okay.
You know, after hearing everything today, and you're going to continue hearing it probably for the next week and a half, and I've been working with this, Judge, maybe about 4 months, trying to, figure out and meeting with departments, and I know we have some issues, and I know we can't take care of all of the issues, but, I met with Dell on several occasions, and just to touch on some of the areas that everybody has touched on, and Commissioner Pusley on technology, and then the attorneys, and also in other areas. I broke it down to 4 categories that is my proposal recommendation for consideration, my wish list, I guess you can say. And category 1, is for a 5% increase, and it really should be 10, and we talk about 10, maybe 5 the first year, 5 the second year, but right now it's for 5%, which is a pay grade for all attorneys. They have an entry-level salary of less than $75,000. Please refer to attached Schedule 1 has been attached for your review. The detailed breakdown of the cost for both salary and benefits to implement the salary increase. The total projected implementation cost is $146,000 for the first year. That's not including the second year, the 5%. The District Attorney Office has 45 attorney positions, of which 7 are funded using special revenue funds, and the remaining 38 attorneys are funded by the general fund. The District Attorney also has 23 other non-attorney staff, administrative or support staff, all funded by general fund. Of the District Attorney's position, 37 of the 45 attorneys would receive a raise of the above scenario, which is attached for your review. The County Attorney's Office has 11 attorney positions, all are funded by the general fund. The County Attorney also has 6 non-attorney, which are staff positions funded by general fund. Of the attorney's position, 8 out of 11 would receive a raise as to above scenario. In category 2, Judge, is that it is for a modification reorganization of the Information Technology Department. It adds 2 new positions at the cost of $130,483. The reorganization also provides for reorganization and increase in pay of 13 of the current 17 IT employees. Please refer to attachment 2 on that, which explains the details. And that's a cost of $223,186. The category 3 is for an additional payroll position for the County Auditor's Office at a cost of $40,303. This category also provides for a 5% increase, 1 pay grade increase, for 3 account payable staff, 2 general staff members, and 2 payroll staff. Please refer to the attached Schedule 3 to review the detailed breakdown of the cost of both salary and benefits for each position. The total to the county is implemented would be $53,453. And the last category 4 is to increase current employees of the county lowest paying jobs to a flat rate of $30,000. The total number of positions that would benefit from this increase is in pay would be 450 countywide, and it's going to affect every department in the Nueces County, so you're going to hear those probably all week long. Please refer to the attached Schedule 4 to see a breakdown of all positions affected and an implementation cost per employee. The total cost for the county to implement countywide minimum annual salary of $30,000 would be $2,076,111. Insurance, as a recommendation, Judge, and insurance, recommended adjustment for insurance benefits provided to county employees. Currently, the county is providing insurance to its employees of a 90-10 ratio, where the county pays 90 and the premium, and the employee pays 10 of the premium. I'm recommending that the employee portion be increased to 20 and the county portion be decreased to 80 to provide an estimated savings for the county of 10%. It is estimated that between 80 and 85% of county employees do not use the county insurance. And the last is my recommendation be based on anticipated tax evaluations. Fund balances is estimated to increase 3.5 to 4 million next year. Therefore, I am estimating that the cost of the taxpayers would be an additional 2 million for fiscal year 2015-2016, which comes out of that revenue. I also believe that the county will have some savings in the capital project funding, as no new funding will be needed due to the recent bond issue. We need the above pay increases for the county to remain competitive to meet our workforce needs. One of the county's biggest problems is employee retention. If we are fortunate to have approximately $4 million on the table, then our county needs to take action. It is unacceptable to have any of our employees or workforce employees below or borderline poverty level. Let's be competitive. Sooner or later, the minimum wage we're going to be required to increase. That's my recommendation, Judge, for the budget. And a lot of those you've heard today, and you're going to probably hear the rest of them about increasing the certain pay scales, and if you look at the 450, they come all across the county, from the sheriff's office, DA's office, county attorney, everywhere. So this is just my recommendation for your consideration. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Well, I know you've done a lot of work on this, and as we get farther into the budget discussion, we'll certainly take a look at how all of this would impact us and have good discussions on some of these recommendations, particularly the $30,000 annual salary for all employees, at least minimum $30,000. Anyone have any questions of Commissioner Gonzalez at this time? Anything that Joe's done a lot of work here, and we appreciate a lot of work.
Thanks to Dale for his help.
I'm sure he did. I'm sure he did. Thank you, Dale. Okay, any questions of anyone? Anything? Steve, our next round is Thursday.
Yes, sir.
Okay, and we start at 8:30?
Started at 8:30 on Thursday, and the group we have on Thursday, that will wrap up the people who have asked for a presentation, so we'll have court at 9:15 on Wednesday, and then Thursday.
I have a new shirt to wear Wednesday, and I'll be wearing
You have a shirt to wear on Wednesday. We'll.
It's purple, so it'll be for Miller High School, and
Go Bucks.
I appreciate Commissioner Chesney thinking about me again this week. So, but anyway, Dale, anything? Any commissioners, anything? Okay, we're getting out early today, guys. It's is that right? 11 o'clock. Thank you very much.